you and your community are pretty racist. Why is it racist to call him a Hamas piker? You mean with the fact that you have like pictures of him with the Hamas band and everything?
Yes.
Oh, because you wouldn't do that to a white person. It's very convenient that he's brown, that he's
okay. We literally
really
spent.
white.
We can't even Photoshop Bad Bunny because you can't Photoshop her to look dumber than she already does. But like, why would you assume that we wouldn't do that to a white person? You understand that, like, if you really want to call me racist, you know I went through like a whole year arc where I literally was just racist to white people because of how mad they got, right? Like, there was a whole time on Twitter where my number one go-to response when I was fighting with conservatives was literally like, bro, you're white. And people would get incensed about it. Why would you assume that I don't know where this assumption comes from that I wouldn't.
That's because you think it can be racist to white people. Oh my God, this is gonna get so bad.
Hi, what's up?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I left a long time ago. It was before you. It was when we said we'd talk privately, and then we did, and I left the Discord after that. So.
Okay. Well, what's up?
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? I saw this clip of you going, "Yes, I'm Islamophobic. I hate all religions. I'm Islamophobic," right? I assume you kind of stand by that?
Sure. Do you want me to speed run this whole argument real quick? And then you can tell me if I'm missing something?
Sure.
Okay. You're going to say, are you actually Islamophobic? And I'll say, well, yeah, I'm Islamophobic because I'm an atheist and I really don't like I don't like a lot of organized religions. And then you're going to say, okay, sure, but you understand that Islamophobic generally carries a lot of connotations along with it that have to do with discrimination, racism, and oppression of other countries that doesn't necessarily tie to their religious beliefs, but it has more to do with either like competing geopolitical interests or it has to do with just like hating some people because of, xenophobic reasons. I'll go, okay, sure, I guess maybe. And then you're gonna say, well, in that case, don't you think you shouldn't say that you're Islamophobic, but maybe you should just say you're an atheist that detests the religion, but you kind of like disavow Islamophobia because it's been used to justify, like racially motivated attacks and dumb foreign policy decisions sometimes, blah, blah, blah. Is this like the conversation basically?
No, not at all.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. In that case, I am Islamophobic. What do you want to talk about?
Okay, good. Yeah, so after you speed run that, I think it's very obvious why you say you're Islamophobic, because it's edgy, it's cool, it makes you feel like you stick it up to the Muslims.
Kind of, wait, actually not as much that. So,
okay.
Yeah, oh, cool. We're both speed running arguments Taylor's not making. I like it. Okay, so here's, that might be a part of it, okay? I am white, I am American, we like to be edgy. But it has more to do with this idea that, do you live in Israel? I forgot.
I am not currently in Israel.
Okay, that's fine. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's not that relevant. And so in the West, in America, we have a lot of strong feelings about xenophobia and racism and anti-whateverisms, all these things, as long as it comes from white people, but we have no tools to criticize minorities when you're progressive, because they just don't, for a variety of dumb reasons. One of the things I don't like is, in a lot of ways, Islam and the tenets of Islam and the people that practice and follow Islam and the way they conduct the country is dog. Is horrible, and I don't like the fact that they kind of get a free pass because they're brown or oppressed, and so sometimes I feel like they are treated with kids' gloves, and I don't like that. I do think that a lot of Islamic culture, in broad ways and in narrow ways, is dog shit, and I think that people shouldn't like feel bad, especially in Western liberal countries, as like taking a stand against that. I think it's okay to say that I don't really like the religion of Islam, while still also saying like you can practice it, everything here, but like there's not going to be a fucking caliphate or any bullshit like that going on. Yeah, basically, so broadly speaking. Yeah.
So okay, good. So my thing is basically that I think that you do have that you cover it. You say you're Islamophobic, which means that, let's be honest, you both just have like an actual bone to pick with Islam specifically, and you say, oh, I'm an atheist, I hate all religions.
Yep.
But you have a specific disdain for Islam, probably because you feel like it's extra safeguarded compared to other religions. Is that fair?
I mean, like right now, at this particular point in time, maybe, but and I'm not going to do the Jordan Peterson. Have you watched all 12,000 hours of my content? I think I shit on. I think I have historically. I have shit on Christianity quite a bit as well.
Good. I'm glad you said that.
Okay.
So here's what frustrates me when you go about the Islamophobic thing, and then you coach it with, "Oh, I'm an atheist. I hate all religions." I think you're very comfortable to say that you're Islamophobic and you have issues with Islam and you think the religion is garbage and stuff like that. Because even though you liked saying that Muslim people are oppressed and blah, 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 it's actually very, not conventional, but it's very socially accepted to hate Islam if you're in the West. Because my argument is going to be is that I think that if you were going to be logically consistent about all religions, you would be anti-Semitic as well.
Okay. We can go through a couple of these real quick. So, I don't want to do the, like, I grew up in a black neighborhood so I can say the N-word because those are my people kind of argument. But I would say that for my particular situation, I don't think it was socially acceptable to hate on Islam. I think it's way more socially acceptable to hate on Christianity because over the past year and a half, the communities that I've been involved in are big on Islam, namely the red pill community, like the Andrew Tates, all of the weird like black nationalists, all these people for a while have been way more partial to Islam, and I've gotten way more shit hating on Islam than I ever got shit on Christianity. I've talked about Christianity and some of the issues I have, especially relating to the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and then making fun of conservatives in general, and then making fun of like all the fake Christians who the only thing they seem to know about the Bible is how they can use it to shit on women. Like, I'll make fun of those people, but right now, kind of like the big growing trend is definitely Islam in red pill spaces, and then kind of online, and then they're also like the loudest people. Yeah, and in terms of hating, so here's like the issue that I always run into when it comes to hating Jews, or rather the Jewish religion. I should say. Sorry, Judaism. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry, Judaism. I don't think you're anti-Semitic, or maybe you are actually. I don't know. I don't really care. But the reason why I don't shit on Judaism as much is because it seems like Jewish. It seems like the religion of Judaism like abandoned a lot of religious kind of stuff, and then it's like largely secularly driven, and they don't do as much of like the proselytizing, and they don't seem to care that much about like formation of laws and legal systems and stuff. Like Jewish people kind of seem to keep to themselves, and like a lot of them don't even seem to care that much about like the religious aspect. A lot of it is more like the cultural aspects.
Okay. Okay. So it's great that you said that. Okay. Two things about that. First of all, I do understand. So, wait, I'm trying to structure in what path I want to take this.
Sure.
We'll do actually criticizing Judaism at the end. So my thesis coming forward is that, as I said, you do have a specific bone to pick with Islam. And the reason why you allow yourself to say that you're Islamophobic and going at Islam the way that you did with like the whole like making Muslims try to kill you arc.
Which, by the way, all that means is I tweet out one bad thing about Muhammad and they want to kill me, just to be clear. But go ahead.
I mean, you do you. Or like, I'm just saying there's no equivalent.
There's nobody that I can get a bigger bang for my buck for going onto Twitter than Muslims. There's not a more fragile group of people online. Not even as much as I fight with black people. Not even they are as easy to rile up as it is to rile up Muslims. Not even close. But that might necessarily prove a point one way or another. I'm just saying.
I'd argue Zionists are a lot more fragile, but okay.
Wait, do you really think so? What could I tweet to like rile up like Zionists? That's religiously motivated.
You couldn't.
Why not? Wait. Well, what could one tweet that's religiously motivated? Or wait, I'm sorry. You said Zionists.
First of all, I didn't say religiously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, that's like a different thing then, right? Zionists are not. We're not talking about nationalities. We're talking about religions, right?
Well, you said then black people, and black people is not a religion. So when you said demographic of Twitter that you can bank on, you didn't necessarily make it clear that it was religion, specifically when you then
that's
brought
true.
up
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay.
Sure. But okay, that's not the point. So basically, my thesis is this. I am a very strong anti-theist. I actually remember when you went on that arc, and I was like, damn, I shouldn't have like burned the bridge with Destiny. I would totally want to join in on this trigger and doing this together. That would be like a fun bonding experience. So I'm a big anti-theist, right? What bothers me is the fact that for me, and I'm just going to say a statement and then you can tell me how wrong I am. But please don't see it as an accusation. For me, it's clear that you don't you say that you're Islamophobic and that you hate Islam because you're allowed to do that because your audience will tolerate it. You would never say you're an anti-Semitic or that you hate Judaism or would go on long tangents about trying to disrespect Judaism because it's financially not feasible for you. It's culturally and socially not feasible for you. And probably because you have a lot of Jewish friends and grew up in America, that's probably a lot more irksome to you than to just piss off a bunch of Muslims that you don't have any emotional attachment to. Is that fair?
No. You said, give me the reasons again. You said financially not feasible, lots of Jewish friends. What were the other things?
Well, when I say lots of Jewish friends, I was told that you have some, like, because you said that, oh, I'm not going to do that. I grew up in a black neighborhood thing. And I know that you have some close friends who taught you about Zionism or something. That's what I was told. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's
so
not
I just
close to it, but go ahead.
Okay. So yeah. So I just.
I'm just curious. What were the other reasons? I'm sorry, I wasn't writing this down when you said. I didn't know there were going to be so many. I'm just trying to write it down. You said financially not feasible. Lots of Jewish friends. What else?
It's not socially or like, what did I say? Socially or culturally acceptable? Oh, okay. Basically, going around in America as a liberal saying I'm anti-Semitic is not going to be as forgiving as going around as an American liberal saying I'm Islamophobic. Do we not agree on that?
Kind of, yeah. Let me grab my water bottle real quick. Hold on one sec.
Sure. How do I open this shit?
Okay. Hold on. Okay.
I'm just gonna lay it out exactly. I am a really pedantic person with some stuff, and for me, it's like if you want to be an anti-theist that hates all religions and shit on religions is fine. But when you say I'm Islamophobic, I'm proud of it, I'm this or this and this, I'm like you would never dare to make a career about you being anti-Semitic. So
sure. Okay. So let's disaggregate and get through some of things. So first of all,
okay, good.
One of the first things is unfortunately. Some words are hard because they have dual meanings, but they're also used for other words that don't have dual meanings. So, like for instance, when I say I hate Christianity, I can say that it's the religion. Islamophobic. Islam gets a little bit more tied in with brown people or Arabs. I especially blame conservatives for this. Anti-Semitic though is hard because there's a huge crossover between not Judaism, but Jewishness is like an ethnicity. So I feel like I don't think I would ever say I'm anti-Semitic, but it's not because I don't want to shit on Judaism or Jews. It's because I'm like the ethnicity is so tied in there. It feels kind of weird.
Okay, so you're saying when I'm saying I'm Islamophobic, I'm not saying I hate brown people, I'm saying I hate Islam. But if I were to say I'm anti-Semitic, anti-Semitism is so tied to the concept of Jewish ethnicity, then people would be like, oh, he's racist against people who are ethnically Jewish, and that doesn't really make the point about Judaism.
Yeah.
Okay. What if I then went a little spicy and said that I also do think you have some biases towards our people. So I don't think it's just about Islam.
Sure, that's fine. I'm just going through this one at a time. Also, real quick, hey, Destiny, appreciate content, man. You might enjoy checking out Breaking Down from the convo Nick Dior had with Muda leading up to the madman. It was interesting example of de-radicalizing, talking about offense. Thank you, Nate. I love you. Thank you for the money. I might look at that next. Or maybe I'll bring them both on and chat with them. Okay, that might be true. I'm just trying to do this step by step, okay? So that we're building arguments so we don't have a ring of weird stuff. Okay, cool. So that just to be clear, that's why it's also why I wouldn't say I don't like the Chinese government. but saying like I don't like the Chinese, it feels weird because it's like Chinese is also like an ethnicity, so it's kind of like, I don't know if I would say like I hate the Chinese. Like it feels a lot different than saying like just the CCP or the Chinese government or something. Okay, so you listed 3 reasons. So the first thing you said is financially not feasible. So I don't take any sponsors. I don't take any money from any large Jewish organizations. Why would it be?
That's not what I mean. Whoa.
Sure, I understand. So I'm just trying to figure out, what do you mean when you say it's not financially feasible? What are we talking about here?
Oh, I just mean that like, if you managed to convince people, and it would be hard because you're a very useful tool for Zionists, so it's unlikely. But if you were to actually convince people that you were anti-Semitic and all you did was just shit on Judaism, like called up Nick and like, Nick, teach me your secrets. Obviously that's going to hurt your career. That's all I meant. You wouldn't
even in that like statement that you just made, there's still like a lot of this conflation of like Jewish people and the Jewish religion. Like I don't even know if Fuentes hates the Jewish religion. I know that he hates Jews. When people say that Nick Fuentes is anti-Semitic, I don't think it's because he has a lot of in-depth biblically scholarly criticisms of the Talmud or whatever. I think it's because he hates Jewish people, right? So it's, again, that anti-Semitic term is kind of weird. And no, I would never call up. Yeah, I would never call him up. The same way that I would never call up Fuentes for his thoughts on Muslims, although he probably loves Muslims right now. But I would never call up like an extreme right-winger or racist person for their thoughts on Islam. And I actually fight against those kind of people quite a bit.
I'm trying to, because I know you've already written stuff down and I know we want to be orderly about this, but because I see that you keep, I wonder if, okay, so, how do I want to do this?
Well, wait. I just want to do these 3 points, and then you write down everything. I just want to go through these, like why I won't criticize Judaism.
Okay, sure.
So I'm trying to figure out, what do you mean when you said financially not feasible?
I just answered that. I think, so look, my entire thesis, and you can just say, hey, the idea is interesting, we can talk about it, but the thesis doesn't work. My entire point of coming on is that you're fine saying I'm a proud Islamophobe.
Yep.
And that pisses me off because I know for a fact you wouldn't say I'm a proud anti-Semite.
Yeah, but again, why do we... I feel
no. Because, in my opinion, one is something that is permissible for liberal online figures to do, and one is a big no-no that gets people canceled.
Okay, wait, yeah, I agree, but I think that maybe should get people canceled. Like if I was on streaming, like I fucking hate Arabs. Like I think that's more similar to saying I'm anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Because when people say they're anti-Semitic, they're not really talking generally. Anti-Semitism is not associated with a disdain for the Jewish religion. It's associated with all of the tropes of all the kind of Jewish conspiracy stuff. Okay,
so that's not accurate. That's kind of like a problem.
Hold on, I'm so sorry. Can you give me a single point in all of human history? I'm not trying to push on like a super specific thing. I'm genuinely curious. Okay. Has there ever been a point in history where Judaism was prosecuted and not Jewish people, or not prosecuted, persecuted? I'm not aware of that. There might be, but I'm curious. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to explain this, and obviously I'm not a historian. Okay. So for the Jewish people, the concept of like secularized Jewish people who are not the reason why the Jewish people, quote unquote, like lasted through 2 millennia is because for the most of that history, they were Jewish, i.e. tied to Judaism. They were very, very religious. The secularization and like integration process only started when was the Russian emancipation? Jesus. But all the thing, like the Inquisition was about the Jewish religion. And actually what happened in the Inquisition is that after they tried to make Jews stop practicing Judaism, they developed this form of like what we know as modern anti-Semitism, where they're like, well, they're not practicing Judaism anymore, but they're still acting like a Jew, even though they weren't doing Judaism, right? So for the vast amount of Jewish history, they were persecuted specifically for Judaism because Jewish people only existed in the Judaism context. There weren't like secular atheist Jews.
Okay.
That's
so
like a very new concept.
Sure. So it might be the case that like in the 1500s and stuff, I'm looking at the Inquisition. And actually, if I remember it actually now, back in English class, I think in the Merchant of Venice, I think Antonio and Portia, I think, tried to get Shylock to convert to Christianity. So maybe like 500 or 600 years ago, I guess, or 400 to 500 years ago.
Exactly.
Sure. But I feel like in the modern age, so over the past like 100 to 150 years, it feels like the persecution of Jews...
You can even go 200.
Sure, if you want. It feels like the persecution of Jews, and when we talk about anti-Semitism, like largely revolves around Jewish conspiracies and stuff. Like if somebody says today that like, oh, I'm anti-Semitic, they're not going to have the association of, oh, you're highly critical of the Jewish religion. It's going to be like, oh, you're like almost a Nazi. Or there's like a lot of weird like Jewish tropes that go into that. Yeah.
So I guess we do need to delineate this first, and then you have your notes, and we'll have to circle back because I see this is important. So here's the thing, and this is kind of like why I said that I don't feel like you have this straight. Like you said earlier at the beginning that like what was it, that anti-Semitism is not how did you say it? Yeah, that it was like a more secular type thing. They're not looking to grab power. They're not proselytizing all of this. And I was gonna jump on you because basically there's what American liberals know Jewish people to be. They mostly know other Jewish people that they are interaction with who are Americans. That are usually either secular or they call themselves culturally Jewish. That is, however, not like, that's not Jewish people as a whole. Like there are 500,000 very Orthodox religious Jews just in New York, right? So it's kind of like an inaccurate view of Judaism just because you have very of Jewish people, because Jewish people are incredibly diverse in how they practice. And so,
which is probably all the more reason why I wouldn't necessarily say I'm anti-Semitic. It just isn't conveying anything accurately. Like if I were to say I'm anti-Semitic, I have to like qualify like 50 million times what I even mean when I say that. Like if you want, how about this? I'll meet you halfway. I could call myself Judeo-phobic if you want me to.
I would love that.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure. I'm Judeo-phobic then, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. To be fair, that would be a bit empty because I don't think I was going to explain. I thought you were going to be like, oh, Judaism isn't as bad as Islam in the ways that I hate Islam. And then I would have to explain to you stuff that you don't know.
Well, but Judaism isn't as much of a problem as Islam. It might be the fact that, like, if there were 63 different Jewish countries and they felt like they had way more ground to stand on to start, like, evangelizing their religion or proselytizing to everybody or taking over countries, then maybe I'd feel a lot different. But I mean, like, as it stands right now, there's yeah.
So it sounds like your issue isn't necessarily with the religion of Islam as much as the component of the religion of Islam, which is kind of like that missionary vibe, like
sure.
the
well, but I mean, that's
colonization vibe.
A little bit. That's a little baked into it, though, depending on where you're at in the world, into Islam, more so than any other major religion I'm aware of.
Okay, more than Christianity, who went on crusades.
Christianity did indeed go on crusades, but I believe that like the unification of the government and like the Islamic religion is like part of the Quran or whatever. Okay,
so here's the thing. Let me know if this is accurate. I think that because you keep mentioning the caliphate, I was going to say that it sounds like the proselytizing, like missionary, like trying to convert everyone element was hopefully what was bothering you. But it sounds specifically like if you had to choose like Christians going around converting everyone or Muslims going around converting everyone, you'd pick Christians because Muslims are somehow worse, even though.
Yeah, I think I'd probably choose Christian. Muslims just seem like kind of like, or Islam just seems like a little bit of a worse version of Christianity, probably. So I'd probably choose Christians.
Oh,
but,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Islam just seems like if you take Christianity, you like turn all the bad stuff up to like an 11. It just seems like it's kind of how it feels. But I mean, there's also like extremists like Christians, and there's like chill Muslims. Like I say this all the time. Like I feel really comfortable criticizing Islam in the United States. I don't think I would do the same if I lived in like Paris or London. I think I would get fucking killed. But yeah, I mean, like everybody isn't like a strict adherent to the most fundamentalist vibes of their religion, but
yeah. So I guess it's just like. I guess it makes me wonder why you are so comfortable. There's like, what, over 1 billion Muslims on the planet, but then you take the extreme versions of practicing or claiming that they're practicing, and then you just go with that as the representation. But I guess that's the discussion you didn't want to have, that you were tired of everyone having with you.
We can have that discussion. I'm okay with that. But also, I just want to center back again on this. When we say financially not feasible, I still don't know what that means. Like, do you think that if I make fun of...
But we did this, like, for times.
Well, no, wait, real quick. So what happens is when we do this, you go, oh, well, you won't make fun of, like, Jews as an ethnicity by calling yourself anti-Semitic.
No.
Okay.
No, because this is what you don't understand. So you are used to the word anti-Semitic being used as, like, a conspiracy theory, Nazi type, I hate Jews that are ethnically Jewish. But anti-Semitic is also about... like being against like the Jewish religion.
That might be true, and that's fine, but nobody in common parlance uses it that way. So why would I ever?
I understand, but that is how it is. It's just But
again, that goes back to my point where like if I were to say like I'm anti-Semitic, I would have to spend like the next like 20 minutes explaining why that's not like. Well, when I say that, I just don't like Jews, but not Jews like the ethnicity. I mean Jews like the religion, and like they would just be like a clusterfuck of. Like why would I call myself anti-Semitic?
It would get you in trouble. But
no.
Thing,
but
right?
it would get me in trouble because it would misrepresent my views. Just like if I were to say like fucking Arabs, dude. Most Arabs are like fucking trash. It's like what the fuck do you mean by this? Well, I just mean like most of them like practice like Islam, and there's like a lot of weird stuff with Islam, blah, 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 like, and then I was like, oh, you got in trouble for making fun of Muslims. Well, no, I got trouble for saying I don't like Arabs, which I think is not. I don't think it's good. It doesn't accurately represent my point of view. I don't have a problem with Arabs. Same thing. I don't have really a problem with like Semitic people or Jews or whatever. But I mean, I guess I don't like the religion. But the religion just isn't as relevant for them or as relevant on the world stage right now. It doesn't seem like it.
I think it's really interesting that you would go like, oh, I would never say I hate Arabs. It's just that most Arabs are practicing Muslims, and so therefore I can make all of these assumptions. But I guess you don't know enough about like being culturally Jewish, so you don't understand how that would have effects as well.
I mean, most of the stuff I see around like being culturally Jewish I don't think I have much of a problem with it. Is there stuff I'm missing there, or?
Well, what are there?
Like generally, if somebody tells me that they're culturally Muslim, I probably don't have a problem with them either. 99% of the time, people say they're culturally Muslim. What they usually mean is like they fast for like 1 day for fucking Ramadan or whatever, and then sometimes they don't eat pork because they just never grew up eating it. That's like 99% of those people, yeah.
Then
or at least, I'm sorry, real quick, those people that I've met, yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Maybe that's not the same everywhere else, yeah.
Okay, so. If someone told you that they were culturally Muslim, you wouldn't have a problem with them either.
Because usually it means they're like pretty secular. If they just like, there's like a couple things they grew up with that they still do. In my personal experience, I want to keep saying that. Maybe there's some parts of the world where culturally Muslim people are way different. But in my experience, people say they're culturally Muslim. They're usually like really chill 99% of the time.
Okay, but people who just say that they're Muslim. Okay, so when people say that they're Muslim, they're like telling you that their religion and you think the religion is bad. And when people tell you that they're Jewish, they're just tell you their ethnicity and you don't. Okay.
Yeah, generally.
That's funny. Okay.
Do you think that's inaccurate?
I think that.
Do you think when somebody says they're Jewish, do you think that always means that they follow the tenets of Judaism? Or do you think they're usually just talking about their ethnic background?
No, that's not what that means.
Okay. Do you think that they're always like culturally Jewish, or are they just telling you their ethnic background?
So here's where it kind of gets.
Wait, hold on, because I know this happens in conversation a lot. I need you to answer that question. When somebody says they're culturally Jewish, are they usually
I
saying...
am answering that question.
Okay, can you answer it and then give the longer explanation? So answer the question and give the longer explanation. When
Is
somebody
it a
says,
yes or no?
it doesn't have to be yes or no, but just like, yeah. When somebody says
Okay,
they're
then ask it again so I know how to.
When somebody says they're culturally Jewish, are they telling you they're, or I'm sorry, not culture. When somebody says, oh, I'm Jewish on my mom's side, or whatever like that, are they telling you their religion or just like their ethnic background?
They're actually not even... It would be impossible to know, actually, especially for Americans.
Okay, we have a way different experience with that. I would hardcore disagree with you. In the United States,
I know
95% of the time when someone says they're Jewish, they're talking about their ethnic background. Now, maybe if you're like in New York City, or maybe you're in some other area with like a really large, like fundy Jewish, although at that point I feel like they would tell you a more specific sect or whatever. But
okay, but here's the thing, and this is why I needed the longer answer.
So
when people tell you that they are ethnically Jewish, the vast majority... Okay, so you know how someone tells you that they're Italian and that's their ethnic background, but that also probably tells you a lot about what food they probably grew up with and what kind of cultural influences and this and this and
I'm gonna be super ultra honest with you, okay? Or like blunt with you, okay? Because maybe we might have very different experiences, and it's a joke for Americans, and people make fun of Americans for doing this, okay? So it literally might be way different. In the United States, it doesn't mean anything. It just means your background. So like for instance, sometimes you'll find like Irish people will make fun of Americans who are like, oh, like I'm Irish American. I'm part of, and they're like, no, you're not. You're not Irish at all. You fucking retard. You're American. And yeah, Americans love that shit. Oh, I'm part Scottish or I'm part Italian, but it doesn't really tell you much, if anything, about like their culture, their upbringing. Sometimes it does, but you're more likely to know if you know like what neighborhood or what city they came from, rather than like they're Italian. If somebody tells me they're Italian, they really haven't conveyed anything meaningful to me other than their ethnic background. In the United States, in the US.
When people tell you, oh, I'm half Italian, they are, and maybe we disagree on that, the reason why they're saying that is not just to casually share their ethnic background with you. It's because by sharing their ethnic background, they are gesturing towards something. You know?
Sometimes, but not all the time.
I love pizza. I'm quarter Italian.
Yeah, no. Sometimes, but not always. And the sad thing is, not to get weird, for a lot of Americans, even when they are trying to hint at something, they're really not hinting at like anything meaningful. Like someone will say like, oh, like I'm Italian, so like, you know, my mom, you know, always shouted at us. I was like, okay, you described like every single ethnicity ever. Like, but yeah, in the United States, now again, this might change depending on some cities you're from, with like some very specific types of like minority enclaves or whatever, where it might be a little bit different. But a lot of the times in America, when we talk about our ethnic backgrounds, it's because we want to have some kind of identity, or we're like grasping at things like, no, I swear I'm Irish. My grandma came through fucking Ellis Island.
I agree with you, but that's the thing.
Okay.
I'm saying I agree with you that people are doing that to hearken to things that maybe they have nothing to do with it, not really, and it's very silly, and it's just like a desperate attempt to latch onto something. That's my fucking argument, okay? That, however, does not change the fact that it is what they're attempting. Therefore, I can say, and again, maybe we're speaking past each other. When you ask me, if someone tells you that they're Jewish, and I'm talking specifically about American Jews, because outside of that it would get complicated, and you're talking specifically in an American context. When people ask, what are you, or when American Jews are like, oh, I'm Jewish, usually they're not just telling you their DNA sequence. They are... Do you really disagree with that? I'm not saying that they're telling you that they're religious. I'm saying that they're telling you they're culturally Jewish.
I do disagree, but maybe we've had different experiences, but also, like, I can grant you this, I guess. We can see where we can go from there.
Okay.
Yeah. I can grant you that. We'll go from there, I guess, sure.
I guess the reason why I'm saying that is because when you ask, like, Judaism and Jewishness, and like being a Jewish person is like a really complex thing. So it's both an ethnicity, and a lot of people think about it as like being possible to be culturally Jewish, and there's like being religiously Jewish, and we use the word Jewish for all of those things, right? So it's all overlapping, and that's why I said that, like, when someone says that, it's actually very hard to know what they mean. like sometimes people will say, "Hey, I'm Jewish," and what they mean is that they're Zionists, or like
I've never
all
heard that in the
used-
United States before ever, but maybe some people say
Well-
that in some parts of the world. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Why did you ask?
Well, because we kept looping around on this. You're saying that it's financially not feasible. But my contention would be,
yeah.
I can make fun of Judaism and it wouldn't affect me financially at all. I don't know if I could be quote unquote anti-Semitic or make fun of Jews, but I also try not to be like racist or anti any like ethnic group of people. And then we're kind of like circling this on like, well, as being anti-Semitic, opposing ethnicity of people.
I see. Okay. That's probably because I think you maybe and this is a personal beef that I have with like.
Wait, hold on, real quick. Can you like contend with my point instead of doing these like weird, like, oh, I think that you're just like this personally, like just focus on like the one thing before. I understand you have we can get through every single one of these personal things, but I'm trying really hard to just figure these out like point by point without trying to rope in like 20 other points to supplement the other point. The financially not feasible thing. I don't understand that. Like I've said, Ike on stream before. Like I've had Dan. We've done like Jewish jokes on stream before. I think I tweeted out a joke relating to like the Jewish tunnel shit before. Like I think I can be like
that's anti-Semitic.
Well, you can say that's anti-Semitic, but I don't think that's the ordinary understanding of it, and I wouldn't call it that because it would introduce like a ton of confusion. But I've done that.
Tunnels.
Sure. But let's say that I say all that and I say that is anti-Semitic. Well, I've done it and it hasn't like financially harmed me. Like I think I can. Do that.
To be fair, I said that for you in your position as like a Zionist tool, it would be very hard to be harmed because like.
Okay, so then can we axe that reason then? My motivation for not being anti-Semitic must not be financially motivated then. Or sorry, go ahead.
First of all, you wanted me to answer. So I'm trying to. I understand that you feel like the reason why it might feel like I'm not answering this is because for you, there's a very clear distinction between making fun of Judaism and between being bigoted towards people who are ethnically Jewish. And what I'm trying to say is that most of the time when people are making jokes about Jewish people, they're doing so about the mix between those things, about stuff that are culturally Jewish, and stuff that are culturally Jewish are 95% of the time extremely tied to the Jewish religion. And when I say you don't understand that, I just mean a lot of people don't understand the religious ties.
Can you give me some examples of this? Because I feel like most anti-Semitic comments and stuff aren't related to the culture. They're usually related to anti-Semitic conspiracies.
Well, anti-Semitic conspiracies started because of certain like Jewish practices. That's
Hold on. So like, now you're agreeing with me and you're justifying it, or are you going to disagree with me after justifying it? My statement was when people are anti-Semitic and you're saying like, well, it's because of aspects of the culture and the religion, blah, blah, blah. My counter was, I don't think it's just like criticizing the broad culture and religion. I think that it is specifically hitting at anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Do you agree with that? Because it sounded like you were just justifying why that was the case, but I'd be surprised if you're actually agreeing with that.
No. So you asked for an example, so I was going.
Yeah.
Let me think about how, because I'm a bit confused by what you're saying. Sorry. Because again, you use this separation that I don't, and I use separations.
To be clear, the separation I'm making is one that basically the entire world makes, but.
It's definitely not the entire world. I can guarantee you that. But I would agree that the vast majority of people who are not part of Jewish culture, but just experience it from outside, would definitely see things the way that you do. Like,
okay, hold on. You understand that what you
Christians,
just said, the vast majority of people on the planet are not Jewish. They're like 15 or 16 million Jewish people.
No. Okay.
So like.
I mean, your perspective, what you're saying right now, is how American people who come from a Christian background see Jewish people. And I'm saying that it's true that that's how Americans view it, but American Jews are not representative of all Jewish people, and American Christians that looking at their population of American Jews
let me broaden
not...
this. So broadly speaking, we can fixate because we've been talking about the Middle East a lot. In the Arab world, when people talk about anti-Semitism in the Arab world, they're not being critical of the fact that they value religion or money. Their beliefs are that Jews are largely running all of the institutions of the West. That's the type of anti-Semitism we're talking about. When you're talking to somebody that comes from the Middle East and the Arab world, these are the things that they learn and the things that they largely believe. That's not a trope on like Jewish culture. It's Jewish conspiracy theories.
Oh. Oof. How do I even touch this?
Do you disagree or agree with the statement that I made?
I disagree with it.
Which part do you disagree with? Do you think that Arab people in the Middle East don't have a general feeling that Jews are in charge of all of the institutions in the West, and that things like the United States or Britain are people sweating Jews because Jews have infiltrated every level of society and they run the media and the banks and the governments? Do you think that a large portion, like, I don't know, 40-50% plus of Arabs scattered across the Middle East don't believe that? You think I'm wrong on that, or what? Which part?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
You're basically under the assumption that however percentage of Muslim people that you think are anti-Semitic just like American neo-Nazis.
Careful. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. Okay. We need to be very, very, very precise with our words, okay? I'm not talking about Islam. I'm not talking about Muslim. Very specifically, I was talking about Arabs in the Middle East have this feeling. These also might be feelings that are spread across the wider Muslim world. I'm not familiar with that, though. I don't know, like, what Muslims in, Central and Southern Africa think or whatever. I know largely or broadly what Muslims feel around the Middle East. Those are the ones that I'm talking
about. How do you know that?
You can look at a lot of the propaganda that comes from a lot of the media stations. You can look at a lot of polling data from the attitudes the public has. And then I've had a lot of people from these regions of the world that, send me emails or message. And then you can also read like some of the Wikipedia articles that they have in Arabic around a lot of events that go on. You can see like the completely different retellings of history. If there's some way you want to challenge this, or if you want to look at, I don't know, we can start digging through stuff, I guess. But
I don't need to dig through it. I don't doubt that you've seen a lot of things. Obviously, we can both agree that you don't have some hardcore survey or data on this. You just assume that is the prominent thing.
Gotcha. To be clear, I didn't assume that. I never assumed. I didn't even know that. This is something I just learned like a month and a half ago, or 2 months ago.
Oh, okay. What I mean is that I will not contest that some Arabs in the Middle East feel this way. I'm saying that if someone were to ask me what would be anti-Semitic feelings that are common in the Middle East, I would say it's probably a conflation of Jews and Zionists. And if someone asked me what would be common anti-Semitic feelings between Muslims and Muslims overall, I would say that it's probably just some weird religion more between Jews and Muslim, which is like old shit that I wouldn't even know about. Wait, so
do you think when they have issues, when Muslims in the Middle East have issues with Jews, you think it's just on theological grounds?
No. In the Middle East, I'm saying that it's a confusion between Jews and Zionists. Obviously.
Okay. I mean, I think they would probably view most Jews as Zionists.
Yeah, that's true. Which to be fair, is how Zionists sell themselves. So, yeah.
Okay, so then they are anti-Semitic against Jewish people. You just justified it because they think that most of them are Zionists, right?
Okay. Let's do this very slow, okay?
No, wait. Just respond exactly what I just said. It sounded, so you said that, well, their issue isn't with Jews, their issue is with Zionists. And I said, well, it seems like they think that most Jews are Zionists. And you say, well, yeah, but that's because Zionists say so. So you started off by, you rejected my claim that they hate all Jews, and you rejected that by saying, well, no, actually they only hate Zionists. And then I supplemented my argument by saying, well, they think that all Jews are Zionists. And then you said,
they only hated Zionists.
Oh, okay. So wait. So then what is your position exactly at this part of the argument? Do you think that Arabs...
I'm going to say it slower.
No.
Okay?
I don't need you to say it slower. You're not going to say it slower. You're about to say something completely unrelated. It's a very specific question related to this. Do you think that most Arabs in the Middle East, most Muslim Arabs in the Middle East, have like conspiratorial thoughts about Jews/Zionists because they group them all together? Do you think that or no?
Jews/Zionists because they group them all together?
That's what you told me. Yes, you said that. You said that, well, they think that all Jews are Zionists because Zionists say that all Jews are Zionists. Did you not mean that, or did I misunderstand that?
You misunderstood what I was trying to say.
Okay, sorry. Can you restate that point?
Can I try to explain it again? Okay, thank you. So, what I'm trying to say is that I think that there are... Let me see if I'm actually disagreeing with you, because now I need to be careful. Because maybe you did catch something. Let's see. Yeah, I think the Middle East has a very difficult problem because a lot of Arab people use Jew and Zionist interchangeably. So for them to decide if they are anti-Semitic or not would be to, how would... help me through this.
I don't know. I'm just the broad macro point we were arguing is, like, if we back up on the macro level, I feel like it's just not. I feel like it's obviously not true. When you're telling me that when people say that they're anti-Semitic or when people act like they're anti-Semitic, they're like Larry David. Are you familiar with Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yeah.
Yeah, that like anti-Semitism means making fun of people for overvaluing education, for being cheap and stingy, for kind of being like annoying and pedantic, that like the Jewish tropes. But my contention is, no, when people are anti-Semitic, they're usually believing shit like Jews run the West. And there is like widespread infiltration of Jews among all the different institutions and sectors of society in the West that's causing them to orient themselves in an aggressive way towards the Muslim world. Like, that's like anti-Semitism. So I wouldn't call myself anti-Semitic because if I make like jokes about even culturally Jewish people, because anti-Semitism carries all of those undercurrents and undertones of like the weird conspiratorial stuff.
Okay. You're writing things down, right?
Yeah, some things, but we're living on this lot.
Okay, so I'm gonna write it down so you stop like conflating the things I'm saying. Okay?
Okay.
Just give me 2 minutes, okay?
Okay. What's up? Do you have questions?
Yeah, I've got questions.
Like
banking questions.
Oh, sure. Here, while you write, hold on 1 second. Okay, did you finish writing your stuff?
Yes.
Hi.
Also, say hi to the lady.
That's Kyla, and not so erudite. I mean, maybe you guys hate each other. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Bars PZI8. Thanks for $100, but this will never be over. We love the death loops here.
Yes, I finished writing my stuff.
Okay. You said, in an American context, I agree. Anti-Semitism towards Jews is about such conspiracies and the cheap jokes about Jewish culture. It is both. In a Middle East context, you said that Middle Easterns are anti-Semitic by thinking these conspiracies. While I didn't contest some do, I was contesting that assertion. Since you don't have hard data on it, I then offered my own theories for what I think would lead to anti-Semitism sentiments, not the American one / conspiracy ones. It's not the only way anti-Semitism works or functions. And regarding Zionist Jews, I know many in the Middle East use those words interchangeably, making it difficult to determine which sentiments are anti-Semitic and which are Zionist with the word Jew instead of Zionist, since they use them interchangeably.
And then I also sent a picture from a book talking about that, specifically with the guy who founded Hamas, actually. So it's very relevant, I guess, in a way. But it is from a book analyzing Hamas, so you might not feel like it's very reliable, but yeah.
Okay, so do you know where we're at, or do you want me to recenter us?
Whichever you want. I'm good.
Okay, so backing up, I feel like I can make fun of the Jewish religion, and it is not financially unfeasible.
Did you really get offended by me saying that?
No, we're just going point by point.
Okay.
You're asking me why I won't do something, and you're claiming that I'm lying about my rationale, that I'm acting in bad faith. You're saying that the real reason why you won't do it is for these other things that you're not forthcoming about. So I want to just run through those because it's kind of weird that 14 years into streaming, people still accuse me of being dishonest when I'm pretty open about all the shit that I do. So I just wanted to run through these.
I'm not calling you dishonest or bad faith. I'm calling you inconsistent.
Okay, hold on. No. You're either calling me dishonest or retarded. It's one or the other, because you claim that the reason I don't make fun of Jews is because it's financially not feasible, that I have close Jewish friends, and that it's not socially or culturally acceptable. I've never given these reasons ever before for this. So I'm either stupid to perceive it, or I'm being dishonest. Go ahead.
Okay, good. So, when you said you are a proud Islamophobic, you gave a reason that the reason why you're comfortable saying that is because you hate all religions. But you didn't say, I hate Judaism, I am anti-Semitic.
Well,
So,
but I have said I hate Judaism, but it's just not that relevant in most contexts.
okay. So, when I'm not saying that you're lying, I said, hey, if you hate all religions so much and you love shitting on Islam, I would love to see you shit on Judaism more, but I have a feeling you won't do that. And the reason, and my feeling why you won't do that, is because I don't think you hate all religions the same. I think you have an extra hate boner for Islam. That was my original argument. The only reason you could contest it is by saying, no, I hate all of them equally.
Well,
And
there's a couple
then
things.
those
There's a
were-
couple things. I don't know if have I ever said I hate all religions equally?
Well, when you use a rationalization of like, yeah, I'm an Islamophobic. Of course, I hate all religions. I'm an atheist.
Yes,
I mean,
correct,
I
okay.
don't like any religions.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm an atheist. Yeah, right. I don't think that means I hate all religions equally. I'm sure there are probably some that are more chill than others, right? But okay, so I don't think the financial part matters here.
Okay.
When you say I have lots of Jewish friends, I don't have a lot of Jewish friends.
I didn't say that, Jesus.
Okay, I wrote this down, so maybe I misunderstood. Okay, I don't think I have. Not only do I not have a lot of Jewish friends, I think that the whole ordeal with Trihex, I think, shows that I'm probably not going to modify my speech based on who I am friends with or who I have
What's
co-hosted.
Trihex?
I was on the front page of Reddit for telling my black co-host, who was crying to me, that I would not disavow private use of the N-word. And it went all over the internet for me being literally the worst human being on the planet. I think that if I'm enduring that pressure, I don't think that I'm changing up the speech that I use or defend or the jokes that I say based on pressure from a friend or friends or socially or culturally. I don't think there's anything
Oh, that's not what I meant either.
Okay. What did you mean by that? Not so... Oh, I know. I was just addressing that because you said I have lots of Jewish friends. So the last part was not socially or culturally acceptable. But then you keep giving me examples of like anti-Semitism of like the ethnicity, which I agree is not socially or culturally acceptable. I don't think making fun of Arabs is either. So I just when we come out to all these reasons of like why you won't do it, I think that the best reason is probably just the ones that I give, which is that like the Jewish religion is just not very relevant on the global stage. I don't see it much. If I make fun of it, like nobody even cares because most Jewish people don't defend the weirder parts of the Jewish religion. Like it's just not like, why would I do it? Yeah.
There are three things I need to address.
Go ahead.
One, I wrote you, hey, I have a bone to pick, like I have a question. I'm not trying to secretly say that you're a liar. For me, you were saying, I'm a proud Islamophobe, I hate all religions, but I've never heard you talk about Judaism, so I was like, what the fuck?
Okay.
That's what I came here for.
Okay.
And I did also say that I think you have a special bone with Islam, and that's why Islam comes up in a way that other religions who have the exact same issues don't come up.
Sure. That is true, the special bone with Islam. That is true right now, for sure.
Good.
Okay.
Good. The second thing that I want to say is that I've learned this from arguing. I will say I didn't say that a lot, so I don't know if you know, but I'm actually kind of am autistic. And when you say things that like I didn't literally say, I will say I didn't say that. So if that happens, I understand that can be frustrating. It's because I try to be very precise with my language and people will try to like rephrase what I'm saying and I'll feel like they're not fully understanding my point. So I apologize if that happens. I'm not trying to dodge or lie. I genuinely, when you say you said that and I know I have not said the specific combination of words, I will say I did not say that, you know?
Okay. I'm trying to quote you and write down what you're saying exactly, but okay.
Okay. So, yeah, we talked about that. The Jewish friends, by the way, is not that I think there's some social pressure. I just mean, because you even brought up the... did I say Jewish friends? I meant because someone told me that you're very close with Dan, and Dan is Jewish and a Zionist. Maybe I was wrong. To which then I apologize or whatever. But I also don't mean that you have like pressure to change yourself. I just mean that if you grew up around a lot of Jewish people, that's going to obviously inform your view in a way. So it would be very uncomfortable to then.
Okay. I didn't, to be clear, Dan has been a friend I
way.
made while streaming. I didn't grow up with Dan or anything, but okay.
Okay. Yeah. Was there? Do you want to address anything that I wrote, or do you not? Or
is any of this relevant to the current? In an American context, I agree. Anti-Semitism towards Jews is about such conspiracies and the cheap jokes about Jewish culture. It is both. Anti-Semitism in America is 95% about the conspiracy theories, not really about the cheap jokes.
No. So that's how you just don't care about the chip jokes. That doesn't mean they're not anti-Semitic. That's the difference, right?
I'm just saying
It's
that
like,
in my mind,
Okay.
maybe I've missed it, but I can't recall in the United States anybody being like, this guy is crazy anti-Semitic. He's made that joke about rolling the penny and all the Jews running out to catch it so many times. Like I don't usually hear that. Usually it's
I
about
agree
stuff
with
that
you.
like Kyrie Irving says or Kanye West says or weird Holocaust shit or like far right alt-rightists. It's not usually about like just jokes about like Jewish culture. I've never seen that before. That's why I disagree with you. In an American context, anti-Semitism almost always refers to the Jewish conspiracy stuff.
Can I ask you a question?
You just did, yeah.
Sorry. Okay. You know how people will tell you that you're racist because you say the N-word?
Sure.
Okay. So just because you don't think it's a big deal about the jokes are still anti-Semitic, the same way that you saying the N-word would be racist. Just because you choose to dismiss that particular thing, or
sure,
you
I'm
don't
not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you
Okay.
that there might be some people that call those jokes anti-Semitic. I'm just saying that when anti-Semitism is talked about in the United States, 95% of the time it's referring to like the anti-Semitic conspiratorial stuff. Like if somebody were to tell you in an average context, oh, did you hear that this guy got outed for anti-Semitism today? Or, oh, that guy was here. They're not going to say, like, what happened? Oh, he told this joke. That's usually not the case. Usually it's they think that
but don't you feel
600,000
that's a
Jews...
bit of a straw man of what I was saying?
No, because you said that in an American context, or maybe, well, you could just agree with me. You said in an American context, I agree that anti-Semitism towards Jews is about such conspiracies and the cheap jokes about Jewish culture. It is both. I agree with you. It can be both, but it's 95% about the conspiracies and like 5% about the jokes.
Okay, then maybe I can build a bridge there. When I say the jokes, I mean when an American guy goes shekel shekel, like that. That is a conspiracy theory about Jews. It's just in a joke form. That's still anti-Semitic. Like, if I came to someone and I was like, hey, I'm Jewish, and then they'd be like, shekel, 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 and they'll start speaking Yiddish to me, that is fucking anti-Semitic as fuck. And that is
why would that even be anti-Semitic? Or I don't even know. Assuming somebody speaks Yiddish, if they say they're Jewish, is that anti-Semitic, or is it because they're asking for shekel, or what? I don't even know. I've never heard this in my life, and I've spent so many time around Nazis. Like, so tell me, is it because of the shekel? Is it because of the words you're saying, or is it because they think you can speak Yiddish, or?
Okay. Ooh. Okay, do you want to go down this rabbit hole? Is it interesting to you specifically?
And the time that it took you to ask you that question, you could have just explained what you're saying. Is it a joke about like Jews being involved with like banks and money, or what is the?
Okay, first of all, it's not that easy. First of all, yes, thinking Jewish people all speak Yiddish would be very weird. It would be like if you saw an Asian American and then you told them that their English is really good. It's kind of like, I don't want to use the word microaggression because it will probably piss you off.
Just to be clear, in the United States, this never happens. Nobody assumes that Jews can't speak English. So I don't think this joke has ever been made in the history of all of the U.S. I don't think a single person in all U.S. history has ever made a joke like this. Like I think every single person.
What joke? I made a comparison.
Oh.
I'm saying that making a generalization that Jewish people generally know Yiddish is like a thing. Coming to a rando Jewish person and just
I'm going to be
throwing
completely
random
honest with
Yiddish
you. I don't
words
think
at
the
them.
average American I don't even know. Is Yiddish the official language of Israel? I don't even fucking know. What do they speak in Israel?
No, it's not. They speak Hebrew.
Oh, Hebrew. Okay. I don't know if the average American assumes that all Jews can speak Yiddish. When you do like your bar mitzvah.
They don't.
Okay. I don't know. Okay. Okay, hold on. Can we just back up? This is. I don't think these jokes actually happen. I've just never heard this before. I've been in a lot of edgy communities.
I understand. You are not Jewish and you've not experienced these jokes from people who are not Jewish. I'm not even an American. I'm just a fucking streamer and I get these jokes in my chat all the time. Speak to some Jewish people about the way people talk to them. Now, maybe the Jewish people that you talk to think those jokes are funny.
And in the Nazi communities I've spent a lot of time in, like, when we're talking shekels and shit, it's always accompanied by like the picture of the guy with the huge nose who's like shaking his hands, and they're talking about how like the WEF just announced they were going to ship cockroaches to all of us for meals today. That's usually what people talk about. Not like, I bet this guy can't speak English well or knows Yiddish or something. Like usually it's packaged with like way more hardcore shit.
Okay. Okay. Let's slow down. I think you are like conflating what I said.
Okay.
I made a parallel. Do you think that seeing an Asian American coming to them and like saying, oh, you speak really good English, or coming to them and saying Mitsubishi to them is racist or xenophobic?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that a parallel exists that people do to Jewish people, where someone will say they're Jewish and then people will throw random Yiddish words at them, or they'll say shekel shekel because they think it's funny, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And you asked me, how is that anti-Semitic?
And I agree. I'm sorry. Okay. I agree that might happen. I've never heard of that in my entire life from any person ever. But that might happen.
I understand.
That might happen.
That's okay.
But also, I don't think that I'm going to recenter. When people talk about anti-Semitism in the United States, I think that they're not talking about these types of comments. That's like a super, super minority rare comment. I don't think that that's usually what is being talked about. When I say not usually, I mean like 5% or less. Like.
Okay, I've never said that like what is in the regular discourse. I just mean that there are many manifestations of anti-Semitism, like there are many manifestations of racism. There's casual racism, there's systemic racism, and the same thing is true with anti-Semitism. It is anti-Semitic to say shekel shekel to Jews, and it is anti-Semitic to think about space slavery.
I understand what you're saying. I understand that. Okay, but I don't like the dilution of what we're saying when we're like, oh, well, there's lots of forms of blah, 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 blah. I don't think that it's just like there's a whole bunch of like 5%. When people say, okay, do you agree with this? That when people talk about anti-Semitism in the United States, they are predominantly talking about Jewish conspiracy theories?
What do you mean talking about anti-Semitism?
When somebody says that somebody was anti-Semitic, or this person is practicing anti-Semitism, or this group is anti-Semitic, 90% plus of the time, they're talking about Jewish conspiracy theories, not that they tell jokes that are offensive to Jewish people.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, that's the only thing. Okay, cool. Gotcha. All right.
Okay, yeah. There's another thing. No, I guess the conspiracy thing is like... Yeah, okay. Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, gotcha. Okay. So you said, in an American context, I agree, anti-Semitism towards Jews is about such conspiracies and the cheap jokes they take about Jewish culture. It is both. So I agree with you. But 95%, when we're talking about anti-Semitism, we're talking about Jewish conspiracies is what we're talking about. When I'm making fun of Jews... when I'm making fun of religions, I'm usually trying to fixate on like the religious aspects. I'm not just making fun of Arabs, right? Like I'm making fun of stuff related to, like hopefully the doctrines of Islam. I'm not saying things like, oh, don't these guys like fuck camels and they smell gross and their turbans are moldy or something. I don't know what the fuck would you even say. I'm not making jokes about like this stuff. I'm usually fixating on stuff relating to the religious aspect or the theological government aspect, like these types of things.
What? Didn't you call Hasan like a Hasahudi or something? And don't you always like picture him with the little like Hamas headband? Like, what do you mean? That's not...
Well, first of all, I don't know if I ever... What do either of those things have to do with what I just said?
When you're saying that you don't target Arab people?
Hamas Piker, he's not being targeted because he's Arab. He's being targeted because he supports Hamas. Do you think I'm just making fun of him because he's from Turkey?
That's what people think. Yeah,
No,
they think
no.
you're
Hold on.
racist.
To be clear, nobody in good faith thinks that. These are the lowest of the low subhuman dipshits that think this. Yeah, Turkish people aren't even Arab. It, like, it technically wouldn't make sense. Now, for an American, maybe we think all of them are Arabs, okay, Iranians and
Yes.
Turkish people. But regardless, no, he's called Hamas Piker because he supports Hamas. He gets the Hamas headband because he supports Hamas. You're racist if you think I'm only making fun of him because he's from Turkey. He literally supports Hamas. Like, that's why he's called Hamas
that's
Piker.
very funny.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Are there any white people that you call Hamas? Or is that not?
Pretty sure people have made fun of. We don't make fun of Vosh. What other large white content? I don't know how many other large white content creators support Hamas. Oh, we made fun of Bad Bunny a fuck ton. Yeah, she had like the whole. I don't remember the names of the stupid head shit that the Palestinians wear, but yeah, we roasted the fuck out of Bad Bunny. She's probably the only other white person cringe enough to support them. Yeah. Second Thought. Yeah, we've done it for him, but yeah, I mean, generally, there's not very many large left-leaning large figures that are like supporting Hamas as avowedly or as openly as Hasan does. Hold on. Just digging into your mind, do you think that the attack on Hasan, do you think we do that because he's Middle Eastern? Or do you think we do that because he supports Hamas?
I think that the fact that he's brown is definitely a factor. I think
the fact,
that's
I mean,
clear.
if you want to get the closest you can to some weird accusation of like xenophobia or racism, you could argue that maybe because he's from Turkey and he has the name Hasan, it's an easier name to make fun of. I mean, you could say that,
Yeah.
like Hasan fits Hamas Piker, but to call that racism is like quite the stretch. Like, nobody's making fun of him because he's from the Middle East. Him being from the Middle East has nothing to do with it. It's the fact that he literally and openly supports Hamas is why we call him Hamas Piker. Like, that's the idea.
So
that's what we make fun of.
reason-
I don't know why you would draw in the fact that he was like from Turkey. Like,
Okay, I feel very I usually don't speak for other people, but I feel very confident telling you a lot of people think that that's actually racist.
yeah.
And that you're doing it because you're racist.
Hasan defenders do it for sure, but everything they say is fucking
No.
retarded. Hold
no.
on. Is it conceivable that I'm making fun of him because he supports Hamas and that's why he's called Hamas Piker?
Okay.
No, wait. I need you to answer that question. Is it conceivable that we call him Hamas Piker because he supports Hamas?
Sure.
Okay. Then why would we assume that there's some undercurrent of racism when we can fully explain our ideas and our beliefs based on what his ideas and beliefs? Why would we need to plug racism there at all?
Okay. This is this would derail us like shit. But
We're already
yeah, that's because, like, first of all, you and your community are pretty racist, so that would be why. And secondly, it's probably because how you choose to express those things if you do it in a racist way. Like, usually, if you choose to... Oh, there was just a discourse on Twitter about it, about some guy calling a bunch of black people like flying monkeys as like a reference to the Wizard of Oz, and people were trying to explain to them why that's racist, and they couldn't figure it out. This is kind of like that.
Okay, real quick. When you say do it in a racist way, what is the racist part of it? Why is it racist to call him Hamas Piker?
Why is it racist to call him a Hamas Piker? You mean with the fact that you have like pictures of him with the Hamas band and everything?
Yes.
Oh, because you wouldn't do that to a white person. It's very convenient that he's brown, that he's
okay. We literally
really
we can't even Photoshop Bad Bunny because you can't Photoshop her to look dumber than she already does. But like, why would you assume that we wouldn't do that to a white person? You understand that, like, if you really want to call me racist, you know I went through like a whole year arc where I literally was just racist to white people because of how mad they got, right? Like, there was a whole time on Twitter where my number one go-to response when I was fighting with conservatives was literally like, bro, you're f***ing white. And people would get incensed about it. Why would you assume that I don't know where this assumption comes from that I wouldn't...
That's because you think you can be racist to white people. Oh my god, this is gonna get so bad. Oh no.
Like, my community is called the Daliban. and I'm pretty sure they're
I
predominantly
know,
white.
you guys are fucking racist.
Why is that racist?
Okay, do you think when you and your community say inshallah, that's because you have any respect to Islam, or is it a meme?
It's a meme.
Okay, so it's a joke? At whose expense?
It's not an expense. It's a funny word, and it works for us. It's not racist.
When you take a word from a different language and then you're like, oh, that word is funny, that's usually pretty not chill. That's
Gotcha.
weird.
Okay, we hardcore disagree on this. I don't buy into the cultural appropriation dog shit arguments. Okay.
That's not cultural appropriation, but okay.
What do you mean? It's a borrowed word. Like, we use it relatively appropriately, but it's funny because, like, I guess white people don't usually use it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that your community has particularly don't use it as much now that there's some discourse happening with the Arab world. Suddenly there's not as much talk about the Taliban and
what are you
inshallah.
talking about?
It's fine. Oh my god.
No. Hold on. I'm just to be clear, you're dead wrong. Like, people still use these terms all the time. We call, like, the Taliban. They probably said 1,000 times in chat today. Like, yeah, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, we just did, like, the K9/11 shit, and we had, like, all of the fucking the music playing during the Reddit shit. Are they called shaheeds? No, shaheed is the martyr people. What do you call the call to prayer songs or whatever? I don't remember. Nasheeds, not shaheeds.
Let's try to make this productive.
Okay, we can make this productive, I guess, but I want to be clear, because one of the issues we're running into here is, like, you're doing the academic definitions of, like, racism and shit, and I don't really agree or run with any of these at all.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say. Can we agree that you and I don't use language or don't analyze society in the same way, so I'm not going to be able to explain to you why something is racist because you fundamentally reject a lot of things that are crucial to my analysis?
Sure, you can explain it to me.
Okay, good.
Like, okay, you can explain it. I can understand. I probably understand a lot of these things better than you do because I've argued these for like 13, 15 years, right? I've done a lot of this shit. I understand the point. But you can't invoke common parlance when you're making hyper-specific academic references. That's not fair. So when you say, like, your community is racist, the invocation there is that, like, we're all running around spamming racial slurs, like hating different minorities. But the reality is well, you call yourselves the Taliban, and that's kind of a reference to the Taliban. And I associate the Taliban with brown people, or at least other people do. And you guys make fun of it. And in a way of making fun of that, you're kind of making...
No, that's not why
like,
people think you're racist. That's like a sideline.
Okay, well, that's what you just brought up. So...
yeah, it was one example.
And then you brought up saying inshallah.
Do you think
Biden was being racist when he said inshallah?
Do you think Biden used inshallah in the way that you... Oh my god. Okay, Destiny. No, seriously. Do you think you and I could reach any productive conclusion out of this? Do you think you and I see racism in the same way? Like...
No, we don't, but that's fine. But then, but it would be nicer to just...
Point?
Well, because again, you're invoking common parlance when you're referencing a hyper-specific pedantic use. So when you, like, often it's like, oh, and obviously, like, your community makes fun of Hasan in a racist way. Really? What, we call him a roach? We make, like, Turkish racial jokes? And you're like, well, no, you call him Hamas Piker, and because his name is Hasan, and that's a Turkish name, and Hasan is kind of close to Hamas just because of his thing, and then you call him Hamas Piker, and then he's also kind of brown when it's convenient to him. That's kind of racist. That's a way different. You're like on you're on like 17 levels of PhD racism there. To just say, like, you guys are racist.
I understand that you reject that. I understand that you need to say, hey, we're the normies. I know a lot of people who think that your community, and the whole Hasan thing is very racist. I don't think that you and I are going to agree on it. You can say, hey, you shouldn't use your 17 layers of racism. I think you're capable, you're completely smart enough and capable enough to understand why the things that you do have racist tones and are sometimes just blatantly racist.
No, I can get the racist tones and I can get the undercurrents. Sure, but then the word that you should be using instead of racist, you say they're problematic. And you know what? Problematic? I could probably agree with you on some things.
I actually don't need to reduce my language so you feel less. I'm not even trying to morally condemn you. I'm using an adjective.
In that case, that's fine. Then I have to clarify for my audience, for people listening.
Okay.
Okay. If you go to Hamas
Like-
Piker right now, there's literally like 2 white people next to Hasan that have like the fucking headband. I don't even know if those are photoshopped or not. These stupid fucking Hamas headbands. That's another thing that I take issue with is the, regardless of your academic definition, I take issue with the fact that you're saying like you wouldn't do this to white people. I'm one of the number 1 haters of white people, okay? When it comes to shitting on people on Twitter and shit, or at least I was a while ago. The idea that like I would somehow use like kids clubs with white people is like insane. That's just not true at all.
No, it's not about kids. Okay, again, this is I don't even know if I want you to let me get dragged into this, because I know that you're smart enough to understand what I'm saying. Obviously, certain stereotypes are easier to enforce on some people than others. This is not a complex concept. When I say you wouldn't do it to white people, I mean it's a lot fucking harder to make someone look like what DGG thinks terrorists look like when that person is brown and is named Hasan than when they're named Katee and is a girl with small tits and white.
We don't make him look like, first of all, Hasan and you are probably like 3 shades away from being the same skin color. Number 1, okay? Hasan is...
I think Hasan is white. Does that make you feel any better?
Well, but then that kind of destroys your entire argument, your rant you just went on.
Oh my God. No, it doesn't.
Number 1, okay. And then, number 2, even if everything you're saying is true, that's fine. All that's fine. But the idea that I wouldn't make fun of like white people for the same thing is, I think, silly.
Like, I didn't say that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I said...
It seemed like you heavily implied, because I feel like you said verbatim, you wouldn't make these jokes at white people. I thought you said that almost verbatim.
Okay, listen to me.
Okay.
It is easier to have a man who is brown, to have a man who's named Hasan, to have a man that has dark hair. It's easier to make him look like whatever picture of a terrorist that Americans have when they think about terrorists, then would take... Do you know how I look like?
I understand what you're saying. Okay, I get you what you're saying.
Thank you.
Okay, you are racist, okay? I'd never even factored any of these things in. The color of his hair, don't we have the... Am I retarded? Don't we have the same color hair? Am I crazy? Wait, what color is my hair? I never thought of any of these things. Also, we don't make him look like a terrorist. Katee, I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means to make somebody look like a terrorist, Katee. When we just put a headband on him, is that all it takes for him to look like a terrorist to you? That sounds like you have problems, okay? I don't know what problems you got when it comes to racism or built-in whatever. I have no idea, okay? Like, I'm pretty sure there's more Photoshop, like hardcore Photoshop pictures of me as a weird terrorist racist. Like, there's the ones of me and Osama bin Laden. There's the one of that Salim bin whatever the fuck guy from Saudi Arabia. Like, I'm pretty sure people Photoshop me into more of this shit than Hasan or any other fucking Middle Eastern person ever. But so I don't know. That's if you think that that we're making him racist or we're making him look weird because it's some undercurrent of racism, that's fine. I understand what you're saying. I just hardcore disagree. If it starts to permeate my community more, I'll keep an eye out for it. But
no. First of all, I'm not criticizing you for it. I'm saying that I don't think you care about racism, and I don't think you care about this racism. So I wouldn't ask you to watch out for it. You had a lot of people talk to you about racism. I don't think you care. I'm gonna make this very clear now. I understand that you were very successful in baiting me into having this discussion by asking me to describe what's racist and then just say, oh, that's ridiculous. I would never think about these things. Obviously, you're smart enough to know that no one is actively thinking about these things. These are called implicit biases that are very complex. I'm not having this discussion with you because, as you said, you know all the talking points. You are smart enough to know exactly what I mean.
I agree. Listen, I agree with...
No, let me finish. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure this works great on your audience that is not very smart.
Gotcha, okay. I understand everything you're saying in terms of implicit bias and everything, okay? If somebody showed up on my stream and I saw a picture and they were Muhammad bin Salid and they were super brown and I'm like, look at this, another Hamas supporter, you might have a legitimate argument. But you are reducing Hasan completely to... I guess his ethnic background, and then claiming that there is a whole classification of ways to make fun of him that I can't even get into, even if it fits perfectly because of where he comes from. That's just weird to me.
Okay.
But I understand
Then-
maybe we disagree on that because you think that there's so many implicit biases at play here that even if he does fit those things, like for instance, if a black person was running around acting like a monkey, I still shouldn't call them a monkey because of all the other undercurrent and implied things. So maybe I understand you agree with that. Maybe we just draw the line at a way different place.
We do,
sure.
which is my point.
Okay.
I'm glad to hear that you didn't think about those things. I didn't think that you think about those things.
Okay.
Obviously,
I don't think most of the people do, but I think the only ones that do are Hasan's fan base. Here, riddle me this one, Katee. I'm curious. Do you think it was racist?
Can I finish a point?
Go ahead.
Okay. I think it's very obvious that even if you thought a black person was acting like a monkey, you should probably not say that because it will be racist to say that. You can disagree, and we have different thresholds. As you said, that's fine. I think I've let you know that many people find this whole Hasan thing incredibly racist. But as you said, and as I said, you don't give a f about that. So it doesn't matter.
Here's a reason why I don't give a f about it, okay? Do you think it was racist when they were spamming, calling me Gusano?
Ooh. Do I think it was racist?
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. The fact that you even have to think about this, I'm not interested in any of your opinions on this. But that's the reason why I don't really care when they say like, "Oh, you're being racist." Okay? Because
no,
you're totally disqualified from the rest. I don't care about this. I don't care about any of your opinions on racism.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna finish what I was gonna say.
Okay.
I'm not an American, and I've actually asked on Twitter about it because I didn't even know what Gusano was. When everyone started mocking you about it, and I had to DM a bunch of people about what it means, and they were like, it's a slur, it's about this, it's about that. So that would be very hard for me to say. I simply don't have the cultural context for that.
Okay.
I apologize.
Sure. Let's assume that I'm being honest, and the cultural context is anybody that left Cuba, you assume that they supported Batista, supported the plantations and the slave ownership, and, hated all left-leaning socialists around the world because they were trying to liberate the peoples of the world, blah, blah. You made all of those assumptions just because of their background, that their parents came from Cuba. Do you think that that's a racist term to call somebody a gusano? That's what gusano means, worm. It was a traitor to the revolution, to the revolution, Castro. Do you think it'd be weird? No, assume what I'm saying. Let's say, assuming what I'm saying is true, would it be racist to call like a child of a Cuban immigrant like a gusano?
Again, I wouldn't know if it's racist because I don't have the racist context for this word.
The racist context would be you're insulting somebody
But
just based on their the birthplace of their parents.
I insult people based on the birthplace of their parents all the time. What do you mean?
Then why can't I? What's wrong with me insulting Hasan then?
I thought you weren't insulting him based on... Do you think racism is just insulting someone based on where they were born?
What part of calling him Hamas Piker is even problematic then, if that wasn't what you were implying? That it's because he's from the Middle East?
I'm not doing the Hasan thing with you again! Are you serious? Did we just say that we don't have the common language to discuss this, and you don't even care about this?
That's fine. Okay, I agree. This, by the way, the macro pullout of this conversation is one of the reasons why I will say I'm Islamophobic, is because white progressives like yourself have no tools with which to criticize people that are like minority people who are engaging in obvious racism or obvious xenophobia. You can't do it because of all of the academic shackles that you've got on your understanding of the world, in my opinion. But this is why,
Do you want me to respond to that, or do you feel
if you want to, go for it.
Okay. I think... what was it? Me, leftist, progressive, bad, something.
Okay, never mind. If you didn't understand what I said, you don't need to respond to it. Okay. Do you want me to read the next part of your message and then on Discord?
No. I do want to respond to it.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to set a qualifier now. If you want to respond to what I just said, you need to summarize what I said first, and then you can respond to it.
Okay. You said that you don't like to have these conversations with people, probably referring to people calling you out on racism, saying that you are not putting enough care.
Okay, you didn't listen at all.
Blah.
Let me restate what I said. What I said was, one of the reasons why I did the I'm Islamophobic card is because I find that white progressives are unable to criticize any minority person when they're acting racist or xenophobic or hateful. They can't do it. And I feel like this conversation is a little bit emblematic of that. That's what I said.
Because I came here to criticize some minority? What minority did
No,
I
because you
come
just
here to
went through like
criticize?
Olympic tier levels of mental gymnastics to try to explain why using a slur to a child of an immigrant from another country is actually okay, but calling someone Hamas piker because they support Hamas is bad.
Steven, I recommend you look back at the VOD and see that at no point did I try saying that to a child is okay. I actually told you that I have no ability to engage with this term, and then you disrespected it by trying to portray me as something that I'm not and didn't do to make
So
a point.
I didn't tell you that. I said just assuming what I'm saying is true. So maybe what I'm saying isn't true. So that would change your conclusion. I said assuming what I'm saying is true. Would you agree that this is like a slur or it's racist or something? And it
How
seems-
can I tell you that something is racist when we literally don't agree on the definition of racism, Steven?
What is your definition of racism?
Oh my god. Do you want to discuss racism?
Just give me can you in the time that it took you to sigh and ask that question, I feel like you could have just given me a coherent definition. Do you have one?
No, I can't.
Okay, then we don't have to talk about it.
Good.
Okay, the next part of your message was, in a Middle Eastern context, you said that Middle Easterns are anti-Semitic by thinking these conspiracies. While I don't contest some do, I was contesting that assertion since you do not have hard data on it. I then offered my own theories for what I think would lead to anti-Semitism sentiment, not the American one / conspiracy, since that's not the only way anti-Semitism works or functions. Okay, I don't know if we have to agree or disagree. I don't know if that's even important. You said, in regards to Zionists and Jews, I know many in the Middle East use those words interchangeably, making it difficult to determine which sentiments are anti-Semitic and which are anti-Zionist with the word Jew instead of Zionist, since they use them interchangeably. I would say that anything that involves the worldwide or historical discussion of Jewish people, like controlling everything and all of that, I would say all of those are anti-Semitic, whether they're conflating the word Zionist or Jew or not. But I don't even know how important this is, I guess. Do we need to, like, come to terms on any things before we move forward in the conversation, or do we have to?
Wait, so if all of that is anti-Semitic, if people are conflating the terms, then is there any way to address Zionist lobbying in a way that isn't anti-Semitic?
Yeah.
Okay, how?
You would say, I don't support Zionist lobbying.
Okay, so, but then what's the, is it because you would say Jewish when you were confused about it? Okay, I see.
Okay. I don't know if you understand the point, but whatever. Okay. Okay. Moving on. Okay. So the reason why I don't make fun of the Jewish religion then, I don't believe you've satisfactorily defended a reason why that you gave before. So I'm going to go with the reason why I say it's just because I don't know very many things about the Jewish religion to criticize. And if I do, nobody seems to care because Jews don't usually give a fuck, or at least the ones that do aren't on the internet. And when most people are criticizing Jewish people, they're not like hitting on the religion. It's usually weird, like anti-Semitic tropes. So this is why I'm not usually like criticizing the Jewish religion, because who the fuck cares? Every single time I talk to a Muslim about this and they say, you don't make Jew jokes, I'm like, well, what the fuck would I even criticize Jews for? And they always bring up like that weird, foreskin sucking circumcision ritual or whatever. And I'm like, bro, I don't know a single Jewish person in my life that defends this. I don't think any of them would give a fuck. And literally none of them have. So like, that's usually why I just don't, there's not many Jew jokes to make about like the religion itself. Do you disagree with my rationale there? Do you think I'm missing something, or I'm hiding something, or I'm just not aware of something, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, I agreed with a lot of things you said. I don't think you know what element of Judaism would be objectionable to you. It's interesting that you said that you haven't met Jewish people that defend it, because that's just part of the circumcision process. So I wonder if they just like will
Hold on,
refuse
you're
to
telling me that
circumcise
the
their children?
average Jew that gets his child circumcised has a rabbi there sucking the blood out of the foreskin? You think that's an average Jewish experience in the United States?
In the United States?
Is it an average Jewish experience in Israel? Is that normal?
Actually, let me Google it.
My guess is going to be in the more like extremist communities, or the fundamentalist ones, or the Hasidic guys, or whatever, maybe. But my guess would be probably not. But maybe it is. Percentage of Jews, Israel. Is it rabbi suck blood, circumcision? Metzitza b'peh, direct oral
Metzitza
suctioning.
b'brit hamilah.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, fuck, great. Now the FBI is contacting me. Okay, when a baby is circumcised, some ritual Jewish circumcisers, mochalim, do a practice called whatever the fuck you just said.
Apparently, they use a special tube out of glass.
Okay.
Interesting. But yeah, it's a part of the circumcision process.
Well, wait. Hold on. You just said that they don't do it anymore, or?
No, I didn't say any of that. From what I'm reading, it seems that halakha says that it's an essential part of the brit milah, of the brit, and they do it to this day, but some of them use a special tube out of glass for the sucking. That's what I'm reading.
Gotcha. Okay. So, I truly don't know, and I've never looked up the numbers on this before. So being super honest, literally just the Wikipedia here. Oral suction. The ancient method of practicing mitzvah has become controversial. The process has the mohel place his mouth directly in the infant's genital to wound to draw blood away from the cut. The vast majority of rabbinical Jewish circumcision ceremonies do not use this anymore, but some Haredi Jews continue to perform it, while traditional Karayites in Beta Israel never practiced it. So it seems like this is not a thing that happens much.
Yeah, I'm reading.
So
I think it really depends on the type of people, but I don't doubt that secular Jews would refuse to do that. That seems weird.
Well, I mean, probably
that they
disease
would get
transfer
rid
and stuff. It seems like herpes and stuff was a big thing that people kept worrying about. But okay, so I can't use that one, I guess, since most Jews don't even do it, let alone defend it.
What?
What
It
part did
doesn't
I just
matter.
say? Wait. What did I just say that didn't make sense right there? I said most Jews don't do it and most Jews don't defend it, and then you said what? What part of those two statements didn't you understand?
Because you said that I guess you can't use that, but if it's not used commonly, then you can use it. I think the conflation is, I mean, some of your chatters come to my chat to call me the R word, but one of them said something that is true, that's like, I'm talking about what Judaism says you should do, and you're just looking a bunch of like at what secular Jews are telling you that they're doing, and that's obviously not necessarily well, not all Jewish people practice the same, but yeah, it's like if you judge.
No, hold on. I'm sorry. When you're making fun of the religion, you're normally making fun of like what modern practitioners believe and what they do with the religion. The books themselves are there, but they're not really the most important. Like, if we wanted to be really like, it wouldn't make sense if that's fine.
You're taking the most extreme parts of Islam, and that's your issue with Islam.
I'm sorry.
But-
Hold on. Wait. What do you think I take that are the most extreme parts of Islam?
Oh my God.
Do you think that the fact that Aisha was 6 when she was married and 9 when she got plowed, do you think that that's an extreme part of Islam?
Can you not say plowed? It's weird.
Do you think that like caliphate building or supporting like Islamist regimes or theocratic governments, do you think those are the radical parts of Islam that no one believes in? Like what parts of Islam when I'm making fun of Islam, do you think are like completely and totally like minor parts that nobody actually believes in? Yeah.
You just said that it's not about the book, and then you're
Yes.
taking parts of the book and you're basically mocking people because they're sensitive about their special book.
I'm not taking parts of the book. I'm taking what current people defend and believe. Like, do you understand? Are you familiar with any books of the Old Testament? Or wait, these are your books, right? Like Exodus and Deuteronomy and Leviticus. Do Jews all follow this shit? I think they're all part of the old shit, right? Is that true or not? Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, there's a lot of weird things that I could go and dig through those books for. But if I were to make fun of Christians for it, it wouldn't make any sense, right? Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't do that. If some guy was like, oh, well, I believe in stand your ground. And I'm like, oh, really? Well, aren't you Christian? You can only kill thieves in the middle of the night. You can't shoot them in the day. So that's so dumb that you're a Christian. Like, everybody looking like I'm fucking retarded. Like, nobody believes this shit. Most Christians don't even open the Bible except for in church. And they sure as fuck don't.
I'm going to read this now.
Okay.
Lidan server, whatever, because you don't understand. He's talking to me. Islam defends all the scripture. Jewish people don't. So this is what I mean. That you people are incredibly ignorant because some Jewish people do. I live in Israel. I know hundreds of thousands of people who do, right? So it's fine that you know a lot of American Jews who don't. That's okay. That is your experience. I don't contest it, right? That's fine. That doesn't change the fact that a lot of Jewish people do that. And what I'm criticizing is the fact that the way that you choose to focus on certain Muslim people who are defending the parts that you're upset about, but you're saying, well, Jewish people aren't doing that. The inverse can be made the exact same way.
Okay,
the only
except
difference
when you
is
say
that
that
there
I'm
are a
focusing
lot
on
more.
when you say I'm
Yeah.
focusing on certain Muslim people, okay, like depending on what we're talking about, these are like the loudest and largest group of people online that you can fight with. If I make fun
Okay.
of Jews, like, or if I make fun of like the Jewish religion, I don't know if anybody will come and fight. So maybe it's the case that all of the people that you're friends with that are crazy fundamentalist Jews don't have internet access, or they don't speak English because they all speak Yiddish, I guess you said, or Hebrew.
Hebrew.
Yeah, I can't make fun of these people because nobody defends their shit. And nobody seems to give a fuck about them. American Jews won't defend their shit. Nobody else will defend their shit. And they're apparently not on the English version of the internet, so I can't, like, so what am I even going to say about them? Like, why would I, yeah. I'm sure there are millions of different religions and sects that I could, like, criticize around the world that I just don't know about, but they're, like, not in our news. It's not, like, in front of me. The people aren't, like, actively fighting with me. Like, why?
Yes. So we agree that you single out Muslims because they're easy to farm and they're engageable and all that stuff?
I didn't say I singled them out because they're easy to farm. Right now, I'm talking about them because they're highly relevant on the world stage and because they actively engage against all forms of criticism on the internet. So that's one of the, and there are lots of people that seem unable to criticize them for reasons that I think are highly criticizable. So that's why I'm, like, kind of bullying this particular religion right now.
Okay. Go ahead. I was just interested in why Jewish people didn't get anything, and the answer is that you mostly know Judaism from a secular standpoint, so there's nothing questionable about it. Yeah, that's what I figured.
If I were to start making tweets critical of fundamentalist Judaist practices, what would be the point?
What would be the point? What do you mean? What
like, why would I even? Why would I engage in that?
The point of doing it to Muslims is because
the point of doing it to Muslims is because right now, on a foreign policy level, internationally, there's a lot of stuff that I think is good to criticize, and I think people should be aware of the critical arguments against it, and I think that is highly relevant to the international scene that exists today. Most of the criticisms I have of Zionists are usually like stuff related to settlements or whatever. Like, it's probably all going to encompass those crazy Jewish people anyway, but I don't care if they're sucking foreskin blood off their kids. I don't fucking care. It's not that, yeah, I don't know. It's not a thing that I care as much about. Why would I tweet like criticizing weird Jewish shit that everybody would agree is probably weird or gross? Like, I don't think anybody, it doesn't need to be said. It would be like me going on Twitter, like, female genital mutilation is wrong, guys. Like, who the fuck, everybody knows it's wrong. Like, why the fuck would I criticize this? Like, I'm pretty sure that's a thing that I think is done in some Muslim majority countries as well, but.
Okay, but what you're doing with, like, Islam is like community service.
It's not community service. It's a relevant political issue. I am a political pundit, so of course it's something I'm going to talk about. That's my job.
When you say relevant political issue, you mean the way that you talk about a religion that has a billion people practicing and you choose to focus on some people and then say that's all of Islam and then shit on all the religion and then take fundamental, like, nations that a lot of Muslim people don't support and say that they represent Muslim people and all that thing? Like,
I don't know. I don't even know what any of that meant. So one, I literally did it in this conversation, and I've done it plenty of times. I draw huge circles around the types of Muslims that I criticize. I've said a million times that the Muslims that exist in the U.S. and Canada, or at least in the U.S., are awesome. I have no problems with them. They're usually my go-to examples of how, like, just because somebody is a particular religion doesn't mean they have to be like
they're a model minority.
No, they're people that don't inherit all the more disgusting beliefs from some of the Muslim majority countries that come from where they chop up, like, little girls' pussies, is what I mean. So I'm critical of some of the people that practice Islam because a lot of the practice comes from the text of Islam, and because a lot of these people sometimes will call themselves an Islamist organization, like, for instance, Hamas, or they will cite to religion when they're committing acts of terrorism, or when they're fighting Jewish people in the Middle East, like Hezbollah and the Houthis and the theocratic regime in Iran. So I'm going to be critical of the religion there because the religion is literally one of the undercurrents that's powering it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that like the whole fucking religion is bad. I'm probably one of the most divorced from religious context analysis people of all the Israel-Palestinian history. I don't think it's relevant at all until like the year 2000, if that. I'm very rarely do I harp on like all the Muslims are bad. Like sometimes I just tell some jokes because some fucking retards will come online and defend it. I think it's funny to see them defend it, and it's stupid. But yeah, I don't think that I'm painting with a broad brush any more than they paint themselves with a broad brush. And I don't think anything I do is necessarily unique or horrible compared to how I made fun of like Christians or anybody else in the past. Just right now, Muslims and these conflicts and the red pillars are all like the most relevant thing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you would say that like it's wrong to conflate Zionists and Jews because that can be anti-Semitic, but then you would take Iran as like an example of Islam, even though it's not representative of all Muslims. You know, it's just you don't apply the same standards to different things.
What is the name of Iran? What is the name of that country?
You tell me.
Isn't the name of the country the Islamic Republic of Iran?
Isn't it
a theocratic regime,
Israel
literally?
The land of the Jews? What are you talking about? Like, this is silly.
First of all, the foundation of Zionism in Israel was literally secular Zionists, number one. Number two, so wait, what? I don't even know what the point of that comparison was. Are you saying that Iran is not a theocratic regime based, like, broadly on what they find in it's not the Torah, the Quran?
No, I'm saying they can have whatever interpretation of Islam and make it theocratic they want. That doesn't mean that that's the real Islam, or that all Muslim people agree with that, or that most Muslim people agree with it.
Okay, I mean, by definition, most Muslims don't agree with it because they're Shia Muslims, which is already like a definition.
Theocratic countries are bad. You should attack them. They are not the religions that they claim to own. The same way that Israel claims to own the Jewish religion and the Jewish people, but they in fact do not own neither. They're just using them as props to murder Palestinians.
Hold on. When you say theocratic countries are bad, what percentage of like the 63 or whatever Muslim majority countries are theocratic? Isn't it like all of them?
What do you think theocratic is? Like, do you mean Sharia law? Like,
that could be an element of it, but it's basically the foundation of your government, like, has like religious undercurrents or religious. I mean, like some people go really far where it's like our leader is literally like the head of the caliphate or some religious text says it, and then some people will not necessarily have it as hardcore, but a lot of elements of the religion might be embedded into the actual form or structure of government or laws.
Okay, so you would call that theocratic?
Call which one theocratic? I mean, those two.
The last one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Good. Then Israel is a theocratic country.
Well, one, Israel is a functioning democracy. I think they elect their leaders. I don't think they draw strength from, or they draw power from.
That has nothing to do with the fact that religion is not separated from the government of Israel.
Are there like religious aspects to the Israeli government that comes from the fucking Torah or whatever?
What do you mean? Why do you think gay people can't get married in Israel?
Gay people can get married in Israel, but I mean,
no, they can't.
Obviously, they can. It's largely they can.
No, they can't.
Okay. It was illegal for a long time, but there's a weird loophole where you can actually get married in a U.S. state, and Israel will be okay with it.
Yes, you can get married in another country.
No, you can do it long distance by internet. You can do it long distance by internet, and you can do it. They don't like it, but it is technically allowed in Israel. I'm pretty sure they even recognize the marriage. Yes, because we've
listen.
What?
Israel approves other countries' marriage certificates.
Yeah.
You can get another country to marry you, and Israel would recognize you. Mm-hmm. That does not mean that Israel marries gay people. Israel also does not marry people who are Jewish and non-Jews. Because the institution in charge of marriage in Israel is a strictly Orthodox religious one. There are no civil marriage in Israel.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know the laws on civil marriages.
Okay,
but
then Google it.
That might be true. I think in the United States we just got gay marriage in 2008. When did we get gay marriage? Was the United States, is that a theocratic regime? Oh, 2004.
The United States has a separation of church and state. Israel does not have a separation of synagogue and state.
Does the United States have a separation of church and state? I mean, we're going to get into the weeds on this, but like we do have a pretty good separation of church and state. But so for instance, in the United States, the IRS will give you special tax privileges, and there's a bunch of special legal benefits for married couples. And if a married couple is something that's defined as only between a man and a woman, it's kind of hard to say that it's a total separation because there's a legal recognition, a legally recognized status.
If you want to argue that America is also a half a theocratic state, I don't care.
I'm not going to argue that America is half a theocratic state. I'm just saying that I think Israel as a country is more secular than probably every single Muslim country. There might be parts of
I understand that you feel that way. But I think since you think that gay people can get married in Israel, you clearly don't know shit about how Israel's government is run in terms of their religiosity.
Can you give me an example of a Muslim majority country that has that is less theocratic than Israel?
Should I just say Indonesia?
Because I don't know about the structure. If I go and I look up Indonesia and I go and I look up how religion plays a role in their government and their laws or whatever,
Indonesia
is it going to be
is
the case
cheat.
that what?
Indonesia is a cheat. Don't let me say Indonesia.
Okay.
It's not fair.
Okay.
Okay. Look, if you want us to have a competition about whether Israel is more theocratic or less theocratic than whatever country that I pick, we can do that. I rather point out that you are saying, okay, here are theocratic countries. I'm against theocratic countries. I think they should be attacked, but I also don't think they should
Hold on, wait, hold on.
used-
I've never said theocratic, or I'm sorry, when you say theocratic countries should be attacked, do you mean like mocked? Or what do you mean? Do you mean like bombed?
I mean dismantled.
Okay, I've never said theocratic countries should be dismantled. That would be a wildly
No,
hawkish
I'm
foreign
saying
policy.
that.
Oh, okay. I've never said that or implied that, but
I think that would be weird considering how you hate Islam and Islamic countries, but you apparently want them to be around or something. I don't know.
Just because I don't like somebody doesn't mean that I think we have to like go and destroy them.
I didn't say destroy them.
Or dismantle them?
I think theocratic countries that are oppressing their people with laws that the people don't want to follow are oppressing. And I am against oppression. That's not complicated. So obviously I don't support them.
Okay.
I support their dissolvement. I support revolution in Iran. Okay? Like, you should too.
Okay.
Okay. So, when we're talking about theocracies, Israel is a theocracy in the same way that a lot of other countries that you are mad about, that you're saying are Islamic, are theocratic.
In the
Because
same. Okay, never mind. It's going to be like hyper pedantic levels of. Is there any other part of this you want to discuss?
No, I'm just trying to say that you should not take theocratic countries to be the representative of the religions they claim to be.
Even though I'm pretty sure almost all Muslim majority countries are like by definition theocratic, I think.
Would you like me to send you data on that later?
Sure, if you want to.
I will. Okay. So you're tired, yeah? Then I'm gonna go.
Sure. Anything else?
Unless you wanted to talk about anything else, but I think it's
was there
clear
another?
that you're done.
I'm not done. But if we're done with the topic, it's clearly there's no point.
Yeah. So
Is there any other part of this you wanted to chat about, or? You think that you can't? So the takeaway from this, the conclusion is you shouldn't be critical of Islam.
That is definitely not the takeaway, and it's weird that you.
What is the
would say-
takeaway?
The takeaway was, as I told you, that I wanted to understand why you were using the statement of "I'm against all religions" when clearly you have a bone to pick with Islam. You said, "Yes, I do."
What do you think? Wait, when I say I have a conflict with all religions, is that only true if I'm critical?
No,
of
you
every...
said you're atheist, and you
but I mean,
dislike religions.
Yeah, but when you say you're confused, does that mean that I have to have like the exact same amount of negative things to say about every single religion for it to be consistent? Or if I pick on one more than the other, then there's something not consistent there?
I think that I think I made it clear at the beginning that you are engaged in the level of explicit hatred towards Islam because you can get away with it in a way you wouldn't be able to do the same to Judaism.
Sure, hold on.
And
to be
you
clear,
say,
wait, real quick. We talked about all these points and you couldn't substantiate any of them, so I don't think you can repeat them.
I will finish.
Okay.
Okay. And you said, well, I don't have anything to criticize Judaism for. I don't think there's anything about Judaism that I know about that is worthy of that vitriol. And criticizing Islam the way that I do is somehow related to geopolitics. And I'm saying, yeah, you clearly don't know that there are a lot of things about Judaism that you probably wouldn't like the same way that you don't like about Islam. But with Islam, it's about, well, I see a lot of people defending the books, so Islam is bad. And with Judaism, it's like, I only talk to secular Jews,
and
so
the actions
they're
of like
chill.
countries and all that. But yeah, okay.
Okay.
How do you respond? I'm curious. How do you respond to things related to like Islamic terror around the world as opposed to Jewish terrorists or Christian terrorists?
What do you mean by that?
If somebody were to tell you, do you think it's problematic that a lot of terrorist organizations around the world or that commit attacks around the world seem to cite back to Islamic scripture? Do you think that's an issue, or do you say, well, that has nothing to do with the religion either?
Well, I think the way we designate terrorist is specific, you know?
So what would you give as an example of like Christian or Jewish terrorists that are comparable to, say, like ISIS or Al-Qaeda?
In terms of groups? Well, I wouldn't know anything
She's gonna say Israel or America. Get ready for it.
Level of ISIS. And of course, the obvious example are things that happened in the past, right? So we all know that
well, in the past like 10, 15 years, we're not doing crusades. Like in the past like 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, exactly. You want to pick a specific time frame.
Well, yeah, because this is the one that we live in, and this is when the relevant like commentary is being made. Yes, of course. We live in a specific time frame, so I'm going to talk about a specific time frame.
How can you, if Christianity used to be a violent religion and now it's considered peaceful, how can you say Islam is a violent religion? Give it 100 years and then maybe it will be peaceful too. Like, you can't essentialize like that when we see that across time things change, and it's not the religion thing. It's about how people practice it.
That's fine. I don't necessarily disagree with that. If you would have said in the 1500s that Catholicism is a violent religion, would you have made the same argument against people? And said, well, hold on, maybe in 500 years, actually, after the Reformation, maybe the Catholics will be actually way chiller.
I mean, I don't think religions are violent. I think the way people practice religions are violent. I think religions are words, and humans will use words however they need to.
Okay. You would never call a country violent, right? Because countries can't be violent, only people can, right? Or Zionists or Zionism, that's not anything to do with violence. Those are just words, right? It's the people that practice
Countries could be violent.
Why?
Countries have an army.
So it's just words on paper, conscriptions, job titles, who cares?
Wait, when you're talking about, do you think the Catholic Church, when they had an army and they were doing the crusade, do you think I'm supposed to think you can't? Okay, this is frustrating.
It's frustrating because you're on like 27 different levels of like mental gymnastics to make this work. When you say, why would you criticize this thing? In 500 years, it might be different. The obvious response is, well, in 500 years, I probably wouldn't be critical of it, but I would recognize there's a problem now. Like 500 years ago, there seemed to be huge problems with Christianity and the Catholic Church and all of Europe and all the Crusades and everything, but like that's not as relevant now. So obviously, yeah, I'm probably going to have different criticisms now.
I understand, that you look at religions a certain way, that's fine. I think that just because someone says, oh, I represent a religion, doesn't mean that I have to think that they are the religion. I understand that people do that. I understand that I thought Zionism represented Judaism, which is why I alienated myself from my Judaism, right? From my Jewishness, because I was told that's what Zionism is. Zionism was Jewishness, and I didn't want to be a Zionist, so I must have not been a Jew. But that's not true. That's very bad. So I understand that people might come and say, I'm a representative of this religion, but they might not be. And different people practice differently and have different interpretations. So it's very clear that just because the Catholic Church chose to be a violent religion, a lot of people today would tell you, actually, they weren't following Jesus's teaching very well, and we don't like that they did that. That wasn't very Christian of them, you know? It's different interpretations. It's not complicated. You just choose whose word do you take. Religion is just about cherry picking.
Okay. I just happen to be cherry picking countries or large groups that claim they're following the religious texts, and you're picking and choosing, I guess, weird Jewish rabbis that suck on baby dick and saying that I should be treating both of these the same. But, you know, all right.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, listen, fun conversation.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.